at 196,000.
But it's clear the employment situation is still very tough, which is why the battle between this region and the northeast for a new factory making wind turbines is so important. The energy company Siemens will decide very soon where it wants to build the factory. 700 jobs will be created. Our business correspondent Richard Bond has been looking at the two competing locations.
The east and the northeast, two regions going head-to-head for a new wind turbine factory. Siemens wants to build one and must choose between the two places. So which has the most to offer? Well, I'm sure we'd all like to say the east, but the fact is that lots of offshore wind companies are already using facilities here in the northeast. These are two substations being built for a new wind farm off Norfolk, but they're taking shape not in Yarmouth or Harwich, but in Hartlepool. Millions of pounds of business which the East has missed out on.
We have the skilled workforce. We're in the right location for the northern North Sea, the southern North Sea and central North Sea, where all these wind farms are going to be situated.
Some companies based in the East are looking north. This firm makes undersea cabling for wind farms. Its headquarters are in Ely. It's doing so well it needed a second factory. It looked at the new outer harbour in Yarmouth, but opted for Hartlepool instead.
Yarmouth wasn't ready at the time, and we didn't want to miss the boat. We needed to be ready for the round 2 wind farms, and Hartlepool we found was there, an available deep water quayside facility, and it was exactly what we needed.
An abundance of dockside land is certainly one advantage of the northeast. It's also benefited from more government subsidy than we have. The National Renewable Energy Centre is based at Blyth near Newcastle. It's where the technology of wind energy is developed. But the east has strong arguments in its favour. As this map shows, we're close to lots of the wind farms in the pipeline. And we've got plenty of companies which could supply the needs of a turbine factory. Firms such as Cooper Roller Bearings. It's more than 100 years old and has a foundry in King's Lynn. Its split bearings would fit nicely into the moving parts of a turbine.
If we were able to penetrate the wind markets to our satisfaction, there is a potential of doubling the size of this factory on this site. That could bring another 200 jobs to the region.
If I was going to set a factory up, I'd set a factory up close to the source of where I'm going to install my turbines. I'd plump for the east of England. I'd plump for Great Yarmouth or Lowestoft.
We should find out soon. It's a wonderful chance for the east to not just host wind farms, but to build them. Richard Bond, BBC Look East.
Well, still to come tonight, the amateur golfer on the way to the Open.
And Mike's been meeting a man
at 10 and was given a tour. Earlier, he presented the Elizabeth Cross to two families of servicemen killed in action in Afghanistan, who both spent time at RAF Honington. The Prince made a quick stop near the assault course, new recruits being put through their paces. It's those new to the force who will benefit from the junior ranks facility that the Prince was there to open.
Our original facility has been here since the Second World War, and you get to a certain point where you can't modernise it anymore. It means that everybody here can get better fed, they can get fed quicker and have a more modern eating experience.
Prince Harry's military experience meant he had something in common with servicemen and women here, who too have served in Afghanistan.
Really nervous about him coming in, but when he did, he made everybody feel relaxed, and he seemed quite interested in everybody as an individual.
It's great that he can make time to come and open establishments like this. It's good that all the young lads get to see, some quite high-profile people come on their camp.
It's Prince Harry's first visit here since his royal appointment. In 2008, the Queen appointed him Honorary Air Commandant of RAF Honington, which means his links with the airbase will continue long into the future. By 1 o'clock, the Prince was on his way. For those who met him, it was a day not to forget. And with Prince Harry's official role here, he's bound to be back soon. Catherine Nash, BBC Look East, RAF Honington.
A man has been arrested on suspicion of murdering a woman from Suffolk while she was on holiday abroad. Sarah Shields, who lived in Ipswich, was reported missing when she failed to return from Gran Canaria last week. The police there have recovered a body. A 36-year-old man has been arrested in Ipswich. The train company C2C has come top for punctuality in the country. Last month, 97% of its trains on the London to Southend line ran on time. The worst performer was the government-run East Coast, 87.7% of its trains, which passed through Stevenage and Peterborough, were on time.
MPs from Norfolk and Suffolk have been to see the Chief Secretary to the Treasury to ask for more money to be spent on infrastructure in this region. There's growing concern that we're losing out to other parts of the country.
Whether it's a better rail service to London or the long-awaited dualling of the A11, most people believe that more needs to be spent on the region's infrastructure. Which is why all 9 Norfolk MPs went to the Treasury this morning to plead the case for their county.
We need a bit of support to get our infrastructure sorted, to invest in transport links, to invest in communication links and broadband.
And I think that Norfolk has so much untapped potential because we haven't had the infrastructure investment historically.
And yesterday, members of the region's business community were at Westminster, bending the ear of politicians. Their message: poor infrastructure is costing the region £2 billion a year.
The leafy lanes and the countryside hide some real problems, real issues of deprivation, and we can't afford to have what support we need and what investment is needed in this region simply being taken away and moved elsewhere.
The business community is worried because in the last month several major transport schemes in the north and in the Midlands have been given the go-ahead, while in the east improvements to the A14 have been put on hold and new businesses in the region have been told they won't be eligible for a new tax break.
The Treasury points out that the eastern region is one of the most prosperous in the country, and it says there are other areas in greater need. But MPs and business leaders say that prosperity isn't spread uniformly across the east, and they want ministers to remember that as they draw up their spending plans. Andrew Sinclair, BBC Look East at the Treasury.
It's one of the sounds of summer, isn't it? The gentle hum of bees in the garden. But the honeybee is under threat. Viruses and disease are major problems for colonies across the region. Anna Todd has been to meet a man whose job it is to keep the colonies in check.
Keith Morgan travels the region inspecting honey farms, from single hive setups to big buzzing production lines. It's a job he loves, but it can be risky.
I went into this little wood, which was very closed-in wood, and the bees met me as I approached the beehives, and they literally went for me. And however much I smoked the bees, they still insisted on stinging me, even through the veil and the gloves.
Keith checks each frame for signs of disease. The big one is foul brood, caused by bacteria that spreads throughout the hives. The worst is American foul brood, identifiable by sunken caps. That's the waxy top protecting the larvae underneath. It means the larvae is dead and infected colonies must be destroyed. It's the one every bee farmer dreads.
If they find disease, they will put a movement order on the apiary where the disease is, and it means that I can't move hives from that apiary, so I can't move an infected hive to another area where it might spread disease.
Like many others, Saffron Walden bee farmer John Rayner battles against varroa mite. It's like a minuscule crab, you can see it here, that feeds on the insects, weakening them and spreading viruses. Left unchecked, and the colonies eventually die out.
Fortunately, I don't think we've yet got the CCD, or colony collapse disorder, that they have in the States. That's even more frightening because at the end of the day nobody knows what to do about it.
A case of the devastating American foul brood was discovered in Norfolk last month. The farm is being closely monitored to ensure it hasn't spread. Meanwhile, this bee farmer is pleased bar one varroa mite. His hives are squeaky clean, just how the bees like them. Anna Todd, BBC Look East in Saffron Walden, Essex.
And if you want to know